Did you want to play Pax Romana?
They made a game about a gaming convention?
No. Anno 117 Pax Romana. It's a city builder.
Oh, there's a campaign with a story and choices?
Yeah, and it's got some really good co-op features too. I'm Galaxy.
I'm Norza, and today we'll answer the question,
Can it co-op?
To unlock co-op play in Anno 11.7 Pax Romana, you only need one thing, and that simply is the game. You can play with friends straight away in both the campaign and the endless modes. We'll explain those modes shortly, but playing with friends is pretty easy. The main thing being that you'll need to be on each other's friends list on the platform that you're trying to play on, or on Ubisoft Connect, as the multiplayer in Anno 117 is invite only unless you set your game to friend game, which will then allow your friends to just join on you without having a direct invite. It is drop in, drop out co-op play with cross-play and cross-progression, so it doesn't matter if you're on PC, Xbox, PlayStation 5, or a mix of the platforms, you'll be able to join in with friends and pick up where you left off.
Joining your friends is done once you pick a mode in the main menu and set up either a campaign save or endless scenario. Once you've picked your governor, you can then invite your friends by clicking the invite button. It's literally that easy. You can also convert your existing solo saves into multiplayer by inviting your friends mid-game.
For the first time ever in the Anno series, the campaign is completely playable in co-op with up to 4 players. In the co-op mode, you'll play as the same governor, either Marcia or Marcus, and you'll be working on building up the same province together while you go through the main story of the game. And as the story progresses, you'll have access to multiple islands and the 2 provinces, Latium and Albion, so you'll be able to start dividing your attention and, say, focusing on different parts of the provinces or different islands, etc., just to maximize your trading potential as you go along.
But in endless mode, there's multiple ways to play with your friends. You can play as the same governor in true co-op with up to 4 players, just like the campaign mode, but against 3 AI governors. As the match progresses, you also start gaining access to more islands at the 2 provinces that you can then divide and conquer. But you'll be working on the same settlement to begin with. You can also compete against each other and play as 4 separate governors, which then gives you the option to create pacts, trade treaties, or declare war against each other at your whim. This option also allows you all to customize and create your own governors by picking a name, avatar, and flag colors and designs.
And if you want to do a mix of both, you absolutely can, which we think makes the co-op experience in Anno 11.7 all the more special. And by a mix of both, we mean you can mix and match how many people play as a single governor with AI opponents, or even go all out in 4v4v4v4, allowing a full 16-player online game. During the review period, we didn't know of 14 other players that we could test this with, but if you're planning on playing a 16-player match, let us know in the comments below, because we'd love to hear your thoughts about it.
There's quite a few things we'd like to draw attention to regarding the co-op experience that we felt were quite important for understanding how the games work. First up, the drop-in, drop-out style of co-op means that the match can still be played if 1 or more players leave the game, including the host. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but if you were someone who is worried about people getting ahead of you or progressing the campaign without you, as I absolutely would be because I get too much FOMO, we would recommend discussing this with your co-op partners before playing.
Next, the speed settings cannot be changed. Now, this makes perfect sense for multiplayer. We thought it's worth mentioning as it definitely plays a role in the game length, like especially how quickly you can go through these early stages of the game where you've just got, those basic citizens and you're sort of working your way up when there's not a ton to do. You're kind of standing around twiddling your thumbs for a while, like waiting for the game to really take off. The game does have a planning function, so you can plan out your city, like for resources that you can't afford yet, but you're used to playing city builders solo, this will feel significantly slower. Ubisoft have said that adjustments to speed settings in multiplayer may be explored if the community demand is high enough.
Important for seamless co-op progression is the live save function, which isn't really explained or made clear in-game at all. It is just this little toggle during setup. This is a must for co-op play, especially if you're planning to have anyone continue the game solo, because it saves the most recent state of the game to the cloud. If it's not turned on, then you'll only have your locally saved state, meaning that if anyone has continued to play after someone left, save files will not be synced.
There is also no in-game chat functionality, so no voice or text chats. So you'll want to make sure you have something like Discord. Obviously, you have native voice chats for PlayStation and Xbox, but you've got that cross-platform players, so you'll need to think about that if you are playing cross-platform. Discord will allow you to chat with everyone on the same call, and there is a rudimentary ping system in the game, but it wasn't very obvious or reliable, in fact, often not appearing at all or just completely off the point that you actually wanted to ping.
At the time of editing this video, we realized that maybe this isn't a ping system. It is how we use the position marker, however, it is unclear if that is the intended purpose. It could be used for the land combat.
We absolutely think that some form of chat is like a requirement here to play cooperatively, considering you'll be building the same city to begin with and sharing all the same resources. So it's important that you have that communication and actually use those resources the right way.
And lastly is the story and tutorial system. Each player will get the tutorial pop-ups and explainers whenever they reach certain points, which is great because it means you won't miss things if one or more of your co-op partners have already played before or if they like to skip through dialogue. But it does pause the game for everyone while you're reading them. So if you're getting seemingly random game paused messages, someone's just reading. Overall, the story for the campaign mode in Anno 117 is rather simple. It's set in Rome during the years of Pax, which is peace, while they're expanding into Celtic lands. The emperor dies, and then the new emperor, who is kind of hostile, thinks you're in league with the empress, who wants to take over and rule for herself, so he sends you away to Albion. In terms of who you're playing as, you can pick one of two governors, either Marcia or Marcus. They are siblings from the Aegyptus province who are now coming across to Rome, essentially in charge of building up backwater towns. The overall story is the same no matter who you pick, but I do think picking Marcia is a little bit more interesting. Basically because picking Marcus, you are literally the governor and in charge of doing everything. Whereas picking Marcia, as she's a woman, she's actually married off to another governor who she's never met and doesn't even see for her wedding day. She needs to run his province in his stead while he is at the capital, sick in bed. As everything's going down and tensions are rising and you're about to be exiled to Albion, Marcia finds out that her husband is actually dead and the new emperor doesn't know. So she needs to still keep up this ruse to make sure that she can still have a place to live and money and govern her cities. It's only a minor difference. Like I said, the main story itself is still the same, but I do think it just adds a little bit of extra flavor that is a little bit more interesting.
The narrative in the Endless mode is a bit more free, as it's not necessarily a structured story. It's more about the journey that you are on and the story you tell yourself from the divergent gameplay that does happen with the other AI or potentially player-controlled governors that you do have on your map. Now, the narrative here is set after the Emperor from the start of the campaign dies. The new Emperor is hostile and rude by nature. The rest of the story is told through those random quests that you get from the AI governors and just your general interactions and the story you tell yourself as you're really playing through that game. Now, the governors will give you like little story tidbits and things like, you know, you might need to go and do something for them and it will help build that relationship with the governor, or if you don't do it, it will lose some of that relationship and that reputation. Same with the new Emperor, as your relationship with them will grow or decline depending on whether you complete the quests that they give you. So there is some story depth here, but the Endless mode isn't really about the story side of things. So it's more in the campaign if that's what you're really looking for from a story perspective.
I actually really love the Anno series, and Pax Romana definitely feels like a great addition to it. It feels very familiar, and the core mechanics of how to build your city and manage workforce and different castes of citizens remains the same. However, numerous additions to the gameplay keep it feeling fresh, and honestly, I've been loving it. Firstly, the needs of your workforce have been reworked, so now you don't need to fulfill 100% of them in order to upgrade the house and progress it to the next tier of worker. This basically gives you just a little bit more freedom on how you upgrade your workers, and also then with town planning and where everything is situated. There's now also religion, where you can choose what deity your settlement will worship, each of these gods giving you different boons over time, and you can change which god you're worshipping to suit the needs of your town as it grows. You start off with Ceres, Neptune and Mars, but you can unlock more as your city gains knowledge and researches relevant nodes on the also new tech tree, which has 3 main areas of focus that will also help you specialize your settlement. And you can probably see from the military side of this tech tree, we now have the return of land combat, which does add another layer of planning so you can handle invasions. If it all sounds really complicated, don't stress, because the tutorial system is pretty decent and it's auto set to still pop up with each new game you start. I think maybe the only area it falls short in is explaining how to set up buying and selling resources and how to read the data screens, which probably is not an issue for Anno veterans, but it might be a little bit of a learning curve for new players. Overall, I actually really love this game, and I wouldn't normally play something like this co-op, so I did find it a little bit strange to be playing as the same governor, but I actually think it's just an adjustment issue on my part. I think it can be really, really fun.
One of my favorite things about Anno 11.7, specifically from a gameplay perspective, is essentially how organic and fluid a lot of the building placement feels, especially roads, like having diagonal roads. It's such a strange thing that I never thought would be a really amazing feature, but it kind of is, because it just gives you a lot more freedom into how you choose to build your buildings. You don't have to have like a very rigid grid pattern. It just gives you a bit more freedom in terms of, the actual design and layout of your city, which makes it a bit more engaging because you can make some different looking areas and have a bit more fun in that way. Now, being able to place the buildings on diagonals is also great as well, but I'm a really big fan of all the customization options, just in terms of the things you can add, like changing the ground textures, the trees, fountains, statues, etc. And also just the fact that you can go down into that like first person perspective and walk around your city, in those quieter moments when, you don't have a million tasks that you need to do. You can actually just explore the city from a citizen's perspective, and, it doesn't really add anything overall. It's just like a fun little thing that I actually quite like, because the game is very beautiful, like day or night. Like, it's a very good looking game. The soundtrack is fantastic. Just generally the sound design and the actual look and feel of playing a game like this is sort of a really core part of that experience, because you want to have a soundtrack that's good because you're going to be listening to it for hours on end, but also there needs to be a nice feedback and feeling to clicking the buttons and building out that city, and just that flow state you get into when you've got these little micro tasks that you're constantly completing and doing as you do in city builders. And I think that Anno absolutely nails that factor. It is interesting to note as well, though, that like the characters you see, like their models are kind of low quality. Maybe not low quality is the right word, but they just feel very plastic in terms of like their hair and design overall. Especially the eyes don't look great in a lot of cases, but it is a city builder, right? It's not necessarily about the design of the governors and the characters that you see outside of the actual city elements.
What is that smell? Oh, Marcus, it's you.
Oh. But I do agree with Galaxy about the overall tutorial experience, in that it is a little cumbersome sometimes, especially if you haven't played this sort of a game before, as Anno does have a lot of differences to other city builders, and I don't think it does an exceptional job of explaining the more difficult or complex mechanics to you, especially when you talk about different islands and trade routes and, how resources are stored in warehouses and, moving things back and forth. I think the tutorial does a good job of getting you off the ground, and then it just kind of leaves you, and when those more complex things start happening, that is, I think, where Anno lets itself down. Same with combat, as there isn't really a lot of depth to the overall combat tutorial and explanation, but some of that does come from the campaign mode, which I think is quite intelligent to use the campaign mode as a bit of a extended tutorial, as it slowly introduces you to the mechanics of the game, and you have that sort of story thread that's pushing you through that as well. Now it's time for the magic question. Can Anno 11.7 Pax Romana co-op?
Absolutely. And with so many ways to play, we definitely think it's worth picking up if you're a fan of the series, or even if you want to try it for the first time. We do think you need to be playing it with a co-casual, meaning that your ideal co-op partners would have at least some understanding of games, the city building and management systems being complex enough that we think it would be a bit of a struggle for beginner gamers.
We would love to see some adjustments to the ping system and have the live save options a little more front and center to avoid any out of sync games, but ultimately it is a pretty good offering for a series that has never had a co-op campaign like this before, and the endless mode being co-op as well. There's a fantastic fun to be had here with friends in a co-op experience.
So if you're looking to team up
Or just chat about co-op games,
join our Discord linked below.
I'm Galaxy.
I'm Norza, and this is Can It Co-op?